say the following. I'm really excited to be here. I've just come from Mumbai, flew in this morning, and when I landed, I kind of checked, my iPhone to see where the rupee was at. And I'm told it crossed 65 today. So, coming from the financial capital with the markets in free fall and the rupee declining every day, it's really exciting to be here with all of you fabulous entrepreneurs in Bangalore, because while, we have the RBI and the Ministry of Finance and everybody talking about what can be done, the reality is it's you all in this room that are really going to make the difference. Because I really think the only way, this country can move forward is if the entrepreneurs do what they've done so fabulously well in the past as well, which is to build India's productive capacity and attract both the foreign capital coming into this country as well as generate export revenues. That's actually what happened with the IT industry right here in Bangalore. That really enabled us to get through our last balance of payments crisis. So if we're going to solve this big macroeconomic crisis we have right now, it's going to be from you all in this room. So I'm really excited to be here. And I'm really excited to talk to you all about impact investing, because I think it's entrepreneurship for the rest of us. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to cover 3 topics really, and I'm sure you all have a lot of questions, so whether I can answer it or other folks can answer it when we come later, we'll try and answer all your questions on impact entrepreneurship and impact investing. So first of all, what I'll talk about is what is impact investing? What is impact investing? Number 2, how do we do it? Is it the same thing as just regular old commercial investing, or is it something different? And third, why is it important for India? Right? So those are the 3 questions I'm going to try and answer. First, what is impact investing? Number 2, how do we do it? And number 3, why is it important for India and perhaps for the world as well? So that's really what I'm going to go through in the few slides that I have. But first of all, just to get the definition out of the way, impact investing is about developing markets for the base of the pyramid. So it's really about inclusive growth and inclusive innovation, and it's really important for India. But that's really what the notion of impact investing is. And as Omidyar network, impact investing is really, really important to us. The lady who introduced me said I'm the founder of Omidyar network, which is not true at all. All of you in the tech sector know quite well that the Omidyar network was founded by Pam and Pierre Omidyar. Pierre Omidyar is the founder and chairperson of eBay. He's still the chairperson of eBay. Pierre's thinking when he founded Omidyar network was that, he and Pam had been extraordinarily fortunate and blessed with the wealth that they had, but they really saw themselves as stewards of that wealth. They really saw themselves as stewards of that wealth, and they genuinely believe in Mahatma Gandhi's notion that rich people are the trustees of society. And so they really felt that, whatever resources they had, they really wanted to use it so that every person would have opportunity. Every person would have opportunity, and every person could make a difference. And as part of that, their notion was that entrepreneurship, finding companies that could tangibly improve the lives of millions of people, investing and supporting them was very important. And so they really, in a way, began the whole notion of impact investing about 10 years ago. In fact, over the years, we've already invested about $650, $700 million in both impact investing and venture philanthropy, which is what we also do. But in impact investing, which is investing in for-profit companies, either directly or through funds, we have done about $350 million, which makes us the world's largest impact investor. And in India, we've done about $100 million of investing both in funds as well as directly. So we've got about 12 companies in our portfolio, many of which such as Quicker, Treehouse, HealthCart, and so on. So that's kind of what we do. So in a way, we really got started with this in the US, and India was virtually the first market that we entered. Now, what is impact investing, and why is it important, and how does it play out in India? Well, first and foremost, I think we've got to think about what do we mean by the base of the pyramid in India. And I wanted to highlight again that what we're trying to do with impact investing is building markets for the base of the pyramid. And the base of the pyramid, as defined by the World Bank, is everybody who's earning less than $2 a day. Now that seems like a very low number, but actually when you translate it, $2 a day, in fact, is set against, I think it's a 1998 or number, and has to be adjusted for inflation since then and so on. But it really means it's everybody in India that's living in a household where they're making less than 8,000 or 9,000 rupees a month. And if you remember, there was this big discussion on the poverty line and so on, and the government basically said everybody who's facing extreme poverty makes about 5,000 rupees a month or less in a family of 4. And so when you get to poverty, which is not just extreme poverty is defined as less than $1.25 a day. $2 a day comes to about 8,000 or 9,000 rupees a month, which pretty much includes, everybody who's not got, a job that is paying them very well, 25,000 and up and so on. It includes your ayah, it includes your driver, it includes, even people who have land and are, considered relatively affluent farmers and so on. So it essentially covers the bulk of India's population, which is about 835 million people, and in terms of the economic opportunity, represents 360 billion in disposable income. So what we are trying to do in impact investing, is to develop markets for these people. Now, like everybody else, they have the same needs as we do. They have needs for electricity, they have needs for lighting, they have needs for healthcare, education, and so on. And so how do we develop the businesses that can actually serve these people at the base of the pyramid? Now I love C.K. Prahlad's work, but I must say he was wrong. In fact, he is wrong. Because the reality is, there isn't much of a fortune at the base of the pyramid. The fortune really is at what we call the middle of the diamond, or the heart of the diamond. Because what's happening to India's income pyramid is that it's actually, becoming more of a diamond shape than a pyramid shape, because we have GDP per capita growing relatively quickly, and most of the purchasing power is not with the destitute, the people in extreme poverty, but really in the lower middle class and the middle class, which is kind of the middle of the diamond. So it's not really that you can build a really good business at the absolute bottom of the pyramid. It's very, very hard to do that. There are very few examples of it. But there are, in fact, great businesses that are being built in the middle of the pyramid, which is, in a way, the diamond. So, first of all, he was wrong to say that it's at the base of the pyramid. The fortune is at the middle of the pyramid. It's becoming more like a diamond as well. And then secondly, his focus was very much on large companies, where he said, okay, this is what Unilever is doing, and this is what Colgate-Palmolive can do, and this is what Pepsi can do. But what we are finding is that actually the businesses that are getting built, disruptive innovation and so on, that you really need disruptive innovation to be able to serve the needs of the people in the middle of the diamond, the lower middle classes, people making 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 rupees a month. So to really serve those markets, you need disruptive innovation, different types of products and services, very different types of business models, and typically that comes from entrepreneurs that are really thinking very differently about these markets. So he wasn't right to focus on corporates. What we really need to do is to celebrate the entrepreneurial innovation that's happening, that's catering to the folks in the heart of the diamond. And that's what I'm going to talk about. The fabulous thing is, and in fact, to some extent, we are already seeing it in the room, and the lady who came in and spoke about time savers and so on, is that the business models that are emerging, that are connecting together, perhaps upper class people, middle class, lower middle class people, even the destitute in some ways, are already starting to proliferate in India, and we see them all the time. Some examples of companies that we've seen that are really making a difference already, in the sort of base of the pyramid, if you will, are in clean energy and medtech. And the wonderful thing is that there are lots of them. And so from an investment perspective, you do get to go through lots and lots of business plans, lots and lots of entrepreneurs, and you find companies that are, in fact, serving the middle of the diamond, as I was saying. And there are great examples of that. We are the largest investor in D-Light. D-Light is shipping 500,000 solar lanterns a month. They're shipping 500,000 solar lanterns a month across the world. They're on a revenue run rate right now that is at $30 million. So this is a company that's grown in the last 5 or 6 years, has really grown revenues dramatically quickly, and they're transforming the lives of the people, in this case many of them in fact who are destitute, because instead of kerosene lanterns, they're using solar lanterns. And I'm from Jharkhand. I come from the poorest state in India, and so I know what it's like to be in a village where there's absolutely no light. Absolutely no light. It's really, really dark, and you can see the stars very well. But in those villages, when you get a solar lantern, it's like magic for them. It's like magic for them. They put it out in the sunshine during the day, and then at night they switch it on, and lo and behold, there's light. They can't imagine that something like this can happen. So these kinds of technologies are truly transformational. We have an investment in another company called Agni, which takes rice straw, which is currently burned in the fields of Punjab and UP and so on, and it converts it into bio coal. It's an equivalent to coal. You can literally drop it into a boiler and fire it. Another magical technology that takes something that's completely wasted, puts money in the pockets of farmers because otherwise they would burn it, and then essentially gives it to these large industrial customers who then fire it in their boilers. Another magical technology that has huge positive social impact. You might have heard of a company called Forus, which is right here in Bangalore, and Forus has developed an ophthalmic device that enables you to test for cataract and glaucoma at prices that are 1/5 those of Japanese and German suppliers like Zeiss. And again, they use a lot of software. It displays great innovation and really can enable us to find cataract, glaucoma, retinopathy much earlier and save people from blindness. So another great company that has having huge social impact but has also got a terrific business model. Embrace, you all know, right? This is a very low-cost, affordable way of maintaining the temperature of premature infants who otherwise might die. So another terrific business, another terrific technology. So this innovation is happening. This innovation is happening at the middle of the diamond. It's impacting lives and also at the same time building great businesses. Now, that being said, you would say, well, all right, then, impact investing is just like doing venture capital. What's the difference? Isn't it just like commercial investing? Is there anything that's different? Well, there is a big difference. The big difference is that when you are investing and trying to help these companies succeed that are serving the base of the pyramid, the middle of the diamond, you find that markets actually don't work well. Markets don't work well. What is the job of a venture capitalist? The job of a venture capitalist is to generate the best possible return for their LPs. So you cherry pick the best investments and create a portfolio so you can deliver, net 15% dollar return to your LPs over a certain time frame. That's the job of a venture capitalist. Is that the job of an impact investor? Is that the kind of thing that they should be doing or trying to do? Absolutely not. And why is that? That is because when venture capitalists are operating, in the upper sort of strata of society or in the US, they're not dealing with markets that are totally broken or dysfunctional and so on. Whereas when you are an impact investor, you're typically dealing with, totally broken markets where the state is not playing its role, where consumers face a lot of problems in terms of cash flows, not knowledgeable about tech adoption. There's a lot of distrust. So there are a lot of market barriers that impede the growth of these markets. Again, there's a lot of innovation happening. There are a lot of neat technologies. But actually getting these markets to take off is very hard because of these market barriers. Similarly, on the supply side, there are a number of barriers. Distribution is a real problem. I'm on the board of D-Light, and I can tell you getting solar lanterns into villages in Jharkhand, getting solar lanterns into the villages of Jharkhand is really hard. How do you find a distribution partner that can actually take these solar lanterns and get hundreds of thousands of them into these villages? In fact, I have given out many of these solar lanterns myself, and I can tell you whenever I go back into some of these villages, people are literally begging me for these solar lanterns, and they tell me that they have no place to buy it because even though D-Light is trying very hard, it's been very difficult for them to be able to get to that last village. So distribution is very hard. Regulation makes no sense at all in many of these markets because, again, take solar lanterns. The government subsidizes kerosene. The government subsidizes kerosene, and as a result of that, it makes it more difficult to sell solar lanterns when solar lanterns are so much better than kerosene lanterns. But regulation and policy doesn't make sense. It's, so you have to work those levers as well. Capital is hard to get. Trained workforce. How do you train somebody to use a Forus medical device or an Embrace warmer? Again, these markets are broken. It's very difficult to really get these markets to take off. You have to address all these barriers. That's the job of the impact investor. Without the impact investor, what you would typically find is that these markets would develop very slowly and they would end up being much smaller than they should be. Without us providing the kind of support that we provided to D-Light, maybe D-Light would be shipping 50,000 solar lanterns a month, not 500,000. And you can imagine the 450,000 people who don't have those solar lanterns every month, they would be facing lives that are not at all as good as they could be. So really the job of the impact investor is not to cherry pick investments to deliver the best possible net return to their investors. It's to help address those market barriers for the companies that are operating in those markets and really try working with a variety of other players, governments, development agencies, other philanthropies, commercial capital providers. The job of the impact investor is to really enable the market to take off. That's the difference between what an impact investor does and what a venture capitalist does. The impact investor is not in the returns business. We are not in the returns business. We are in the market development business. What we really want to do is we want to address these market barriers. We want to help these companies scale and develop a flourishing ecosystem, have lots of really good competitors, and enable that S-curve of market adoption to reach its fullest potential. That's what we are accountable for. So as impact investors, as I keep saying whenever I do interviews and so on, and people ask me, so what's your bottom line? Do you have one bottom line or two bottom lines or three bottom lines? I mean, people always ask me that question, and I say, no, we have only one bottom line. If I'm a commercial investor, I have one bottom line. That's my fiduciary responsibility to my LPs. Generate the highest possible net returns for my LPs. That's my bottom line as a commercial investor. But that's not my one bottom line as an impact investor. As an impact investor, I have one bottom line. And that bottom line is to make sure I generate as much social impact as possible. So my bottom line is social impact. And to that end, returns are a means to that end. So if a company like D-Light or a company like Forus or Agni generates high returns and can scale and eventually attract commercial capital providers like SKS has done in microfinance and Janalakshmi and Equitas and Ujjivan are doing right now, because they attract sufficiently high returns, they can get commercial capital and really help develop the market. And when we develop the market and get to as many people as possible, then you're having as much social impact as you can hope to achieve. So that's the job of the impact investor. Does that make sense to you all? That we are in the market development business. We are not in the returns business. The returns are a means to that end. And of course, we want to invest in great businesses, because if you don't invest in great businesses, they're not going to scale, they're not going to attract commercial capital, and they're not going to achieve the social impact that we would like them to achieve. But at the end of the day, impact investors are measured on social impact, not necessarily on returns. And that's what's different between impact investing. And how we do it, as I said earlier, is to try and work with our companies, provide them a tremendous amount of support, work with governments, work with industry associations, work with all the different players that are required to actually enable a market to take off. And that's why I really like this picture. Because when you're really trying to develop a market, it's the famous story of the 7 blind men and the elephant. And so if you're a company, you kind of are holding on to one part of the elephant. If you're the government, you're holding on to another part of the elephant. If you're a development agency or you're a philanthropy, you're holding another part of the elephant. And you're kind of all grappling with this massive problem, which is how do you really develop a market so that microfinance, for example, develops to its fullest potential. You don't have a crisis like you had in Andhra Pradesh, so that you can get to hundreds of millions of borrowers who really do need microfinance and who really want to be able to get access to these affordable financial services. So that's what you need to be able to do, which is you need to be able to work with all the other stakeholders and be able to grow the market. And so, by way of conclusion, impact investing can improve the lives of hundreds of millions of people. Because if we can develop these markets, whether it's in microfinance, whether it's in solar lanterns, whether it's in healthcare, we can actually tangibly improve the lives of millions of people. We can build great flourishing industries like we've already done in microfinance, and really show the rest of the world how you can actually pursue economic development through market-based means and through the great innovation of entrepreneurs like all of you in the room here. So that's why it's important for India. And I'll finally conclude by saying that India is really at the epicenter of impact investing, which is why it's so exciting to be here right now and to be working on this. India is really at the epicenter of impact investing. We have over 25 impact-oriented funds operating in India. We just have created the Impact Investors Council, and in the Impact Investors Council, we've kind of added up everybody's portfolios to see, okay, how many companies have we invested in? How many companies have we invested in that are, going to be able to deliver social impact? And what we found is that we've collectively invested in over 100 companies. There is no other country in the world. There's no other country in the world where there have been 100 investments in these types of social enterprises. And the amount of capital that's gone into these companies is over $500 million from these impact funds, and probably over a couple of $1 billion from commercial enterprises as well. So when you look at the scale and scope of what's happening in impact investing in India, it far surpasses every other country in the world, including the US. So when you look at venture capital, obviously we take our guidance from what's happening in the US and what the US is doing, and the Googles and the Facebooks and so on. But the Googles and the Facebooks, all of these great companies in impact investing probably are going to come from India, which makes it really exciting. We've already got a few like SKS, we've got D-Light, and so on. So, stay tuned, because there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. And I'll end with that, folks. The future will be brighter.
Brighter. I think at 65 rupees a dollar, that's the only way to go up now. So tell me, at 65 rupees a dollar, how does it changes VC economics?
Thank God we don't have to answer that question. Because again, remember, we have only one objective, which is to deliver social impact, and things have gotten a lot cheaper in India, so we can deliver more social impact. But no, it's a really hard and tough blow to deal with, because as a result of this, lots and lots of investments that you made, which you thought you were earning good returns on, you're underwater. And obviously, for LPs that are looking at it purely from a commercial perspective, it's a real sort of dampener. And I think people are already thinking hard about whether to invest in India because of the political gridlock, the corruption, and so on. And this is a real downer for them. I think one of the important things to recognize as far as India is concerned is that 90% of venture capital in India, 90% of venture capital in India comes from overseas, which means it's largely dollar denominated. So you have a lot of unhappy people in the venture capital industry right now. In fact, I was just speaking to somebody in London yesterday who was asking me this question. He says, look, we've made one investment in India, and we kind of have to decide whether we scale up what we're doing or whether we kind of shut things down. And to be honest, Jayant, we're thinking of shutting things down. So that's kind of what you're seeing in London and New York right now.
Where is the hope? Where is the hope? What's the hope for this country?
Well, the hope is all of you. The hope is all of you. I mean, I think if you remember in 1991, when we had the massive balance of payments crisis, the crisis, in fact, resulted in significant liberalization. And I think some of that is starting to happen right now. And India, of course, had to devalue its currency. Things became really cheap. The IT industry, the BPO industry took off, and in fact became India's largest foreign exchange earner. And when you add, not just the export earnings, but also the remittances from our IT workforces on H-1 visas and so on in the US, basically that's what turned around the foreign exchange situation in India. So I think if we can build great companies, whether it's a D-Light or an InMobi or a Quicker or a Flipkart, these are the kinds of companies that can turn around our fortunes. And it's going to happen here with you all. So you're the future.
So as I sort of said yesterday, I think destruction is the biggest opportunity for innovation and value creation. So perhaps at this point of time in the history of India, where we have things melting down in bad sort of a way, some new creative energies are being let loose, some new innovative thoughts are being spawned in this room as we talk about, which will change the world. Thank you very much.